morning. The only reason why some of you haven't lost your mind, even though you see your financial statements are just dwindling and going down, and you're losing more and more each month. You don't even open your statements anymore. You just toss them aside. But the only reason you haven't committed suicide and done nothing stupid or crazy because you says, I don't care how bad it gets, God still gonna bring me through. Is there anybody here this morning that said, that's been my saving grace? That God's going to still bring me through. The only reason you ain't lost your mind, and they said we got to declare a furlough, and now we want you to take off 2 days and 3 days, and that means you're going to bring home 7 to 10% less pay. The only reason you still can smile is because you say, you know what? God's still going to be good. I wish I had somebody here this morning. So that's my testimony. That's why I still been able to smile when I should be crying. I still been able to jump up and down, even though everybody else around me seems to be losing their mind and throwing in the towel and saying it's not worth it. I still been able to have joy because even in the midst of this famine, I still believe that God's going to work this to my favor. I don't know how He's going to do it. I just believe He's going to do it. And I've got to the point that that's good enough for me that I don't need to know all the time how God's going to bring me through. Just the thought that God's going to bring me through. I've learned to say that's enough. That's what Grandma and Dad would say. It is well with my soul. I don't have all the answers. I don't know the who, what, when, where, why. I don't know how long. But as long as I know who's going to bring me through, that's enough to shout. Is there anybody here this morning that says, the reason I'm still smiling, the reason I'm still shouting, the reason I'm still being nice to people, the reason I ain't lost my mind, the reason I ain't did something silly is because I still know that no matter what I go through, God gonna handle it. God gonna handle it. Yeah, God gonna handle it. And so being in a famine is not the worst thing that could happen. The worst thing that could happen in the midst of a famine is to not know who to turn to. In Genesis chapter 41, we read of the story about Joseph after a chain of events commencing with his brothers having initially sold him into slavery. He ends up in the prison of Pharaoh where he receives a summons from Pharaoh to interpret a dream that Pharaoh or none of his wise men could interpret. Did you catch that? Genesis chapter 41 is the story where Joseph has been sold off into slavery by his brothers, and he ends up in prison. And after a chain of events, one of Pharaoh's servants says, I remember that there's somebody down there in the prison cell who can interpret your dream because Pharaoh, you can't do it, and all your wise men can't do it. But there's somebody in the prison cell that if you just elevate him, he can interpret your dream. I want to pause here and tell somebody that what was meant to harm you, God's going to work it to your favor. Oh, God, I'm ready to go. I missed y'all last week. But God is saying that the thing that should have destroyed you, the thing that was set up to harm you, that if you can just stay the course, that thing that should have hurt you, that thing that should have harmed you, that famine that should take you out, I'm going to work that thing to your favor. Is there anybody here this morning say, that's why I'm shouting, because what I'm going through, God say He's going to work it to my favor. All I have to do is stay the course. God, look at your neighbor and say, stay the course, stay the course. Now is not the time to panic. Now is not the time to fall apart. Now is not the time to take matters into your own hand. But keep your hand in God's hand and believe that God is going to work everything out to your favor. God, who I'm talking to this morning, God's going to work everything out to your tears. He gonna work it to your favor. The persecution and the lies and the snickering that you've been having to endure, God's gonna work it all to your favor. And God is saying, all I need you to do is stay the course, and I'm gonna work your pain for your gain. God says, I'm gonna fix it up. For what you thought was a setback, it's really just an opportunity to set you up for a comeback. Is there anybody here this morning say, look out for my comeback? I wish I had somebody here this morning that really believed it. Lean over and tell your neighbor, I may be going through right now, but it's just a setback for a comeback. I'm getting ready to make my comeback. Look at somebody and say, I'm getting ready to make my comeback. I know you see my tears. I know you've seen my hurt. I know you've seen my struggles. But God's getting ready to turn this plight around for me. And so Joseph interprets Pharaoh's dream, and he says, Pharaoh, for 7 years there'll be prosperity. Then there's going to be 7 years of a famine in the land. But Pharaoh, understand that this famine will work to your favor if you trust in God. This famine will work to your favor if you just remain obedient to the word of God. So then we scroll down to Genesis chapter 42, and we learn that the national crisis called a famine caused Joseph's brothers to come to him and say, we need your help. You missed it. Chapter 42 of Genesis says that the famine brought Joseph's brothers who sold him into slavery from Canaan, seeking refuge from him. I want to tell somebody, don't panic, don't fall apart. People that have been trying to do you in, God says, when it's all over, when it's all said and done, those people that were trying to harm you, those people that were trying to do you in, I'm going to position them where they got to come back to you and say, you know what, I did you wrong. You know what, I did you wrong. You know what, I did you wrong. And God's going to put it in your heart when you say, I ain't even mad at you. In fact, I'm glad you did what you did. Because if you hadn't have tripped out on me like you tripped out on me, I wouldn't be where I am. God. Who I'm talking to this morning, Oh, God, I wish I had some real people here this morning. Oh, God. Sister girl, don't even be mad at your ex. In fact, say, brother, I'm glad you did me the way you did me. Because if you hadn't did me like you did me, I wouldn't be where I am to get what I'm about to get. I've got to balance this thing out. Brothers, don't even trip on her. If she hadn't did what she did, you wouldn't be positioned where you are to get what God has for you. So somebody ought to say, I ain't mad at you. I ain't mad what they did to me. It's because God just used your craziness to position me. And so in chapter 45, watch this, in chapter 45, Joseph know who they are, but they don't understand who Joseph is. So in Genesis chapter 45, Joseph reveals his identity to his brothers, and he says, watch this, brothers. I don't even want you to be upset at what you did. I don't even want you to be angry with yourself. Because watch this. God used your actions to position me to be in a place to help you. God Almighty. Now, come on, let's be real. Let's be real. You got to have some crazy radical faith to make a statement like that. Joseph said, I ain't even tripping on you. Joseph said, I ain't even mad at you. Joseph said, I ain't trying to take matters in my own hands. Joseph said, nah, I understand that you did what you did, but God knew what you was going to do. And so when you did it, it was no surprise to God. And God simply let you move through on your actions because it positioned me where I need to be positioned. But guess what? Because you did what you did, I can now help you. I ain't even mad. Because God's going to use me to still be a blessing to you. And so Joseph says, gather up all the family. I'm going to put you in the region of Goshen, and so you'll be able to weather the storm. He says, in a real sense, this famine is going to work to your favor. If you trust God. You got to get that point, don't you? You've got to trust God. Tell your neighbor, you've got to trust God. I don't care how many days they take away from you. You got to trust God. I don't care how much of a pay cut they ask you to take. You got to trust God. I don't care how many jobs are lost. You still got to trust and believe that God will see you through.